Welcome to the YesFest wild world of coding. With this video, the Scratch coding language, and a computer, tablet, or smartphone, you have a ticket to a world of your own design. In this amazing digital makerspace, the sky isn't the limit as you create a world to explore with the famous YesBot by your side. Just like in the real world, the forces of gravity, friction, and momentum exist, but in the world of Scratch coding, you set all their rules. Incredible adventures waiting to be shared with friends and family are just a click away. Scratch is free to use, and there's no download to wait for, so let's get started. To reach the Scratch website, you'll need to type the following address into the browser bar: scratch.mit.edu. To see some examples of cool things coders just like you have created using Scratch's free tools, click on the video on the right side of the screen. Want to create a platform scrolling game? It's within your reach. Ready to follow avatars through strange and wondrous landscapes? No problem. Additionally, Centennial Park Library's Facebook page has a series of videos on Scratch basics, plus Tuesday evening tutorials devoted to different types of games. Mouse control games, trivia games, and more. Although you could jump right in by clicking the Start Creating button, if you want to be able to save your projects and access them later, you will need to create a free account by clicking Join Scratch. For now, let's continue without creating an account by clicking Start Creating. On this screen, you'll see there's another green video box you can click in the center of the screen. The short video that plays introduces you to the building blocks of the Scratch coding and how they work with each other. To close the video, click the X in the upper right-hand corner. You can always access this video again, or many more helpful topics, by clicking on Tutorials with the light bulb icon along the top of the screen. In your first project, you will have a blank central canvas, a Sprite Tray in the lower right, a display pane in the upper right, and a code block menu on the left. Clicking and dragging specific code blocks to the central canvas and connecting them together will allow you to affect the digital world you'll be building in multiple ways. The character occupying the world you create and following your commands is known as a sprite. Your Sprite Tray shows your selected sprite, in this case, an orange cat. To select a different sprite, hover over the blue cat face with the plus sign, which will bring up 4 options. By clicking on the magnifying glass, you can choose one of the dozens of preloaded sprites that are included with Scratch. You can always click the back arrow at the upper left of the page to return to the coding canvas. Do you see that one of the options is to upload a sprite? The next part of the video will show you how to get your very own YesBot avatar to explore the world you create in code. Open a new tab on your internet browser and type in the address included in your packet. This will take you to the image of YesBot. Right-click on the image and choose Save Image As. You can save the image wherever you'd like, but make sure and remember the location so that you can retrieve it once we're back in Scratch. In the Sprite Tray, click on the trash can button on the cat sprite. Mouse over the Choose a Sprite button and select Upload Sprite. Select the YesBot image and click Open. Click on the YesBot sprite to make sure it is the active item, and then get ready to make a physics engine. Is YesBot ready for adventure? Let's start coding. Make sure you're back on the main coding page. You'll be dragging blocks of commands from the code block menu onto the central canvas. This is where you'll tell YesBot through the computer code you choose how to interact with its new world. You'll be coding those aforementioned forces like gravity, friction, and momentum. After all, going through walls might be okay for a ghost, but a robot respects boundaries. Okay, so now we're ready to go through the step-by-step instructions to create the physics engine for our YesBot. So I'm going to go through each step individually. You can follow along on the instruction packet that you received, and I'll try to give some notes as I go through just to help out. So the first note is you can use the view buttons here to change the display area so that you have more area to work with the coding section. So that's one thing I would suggest, is to change the display panes here. And then you can also use the plus and minus magnifying glasses on the bottom right corner to zoom in and out on your code as well if you need more space. So we're going to start with My Blocks on the code menu. You're going to click on Make a Block. We're going to type in gravity and then click Add an Input Number or text. Type in gravity in this box as well. Click on Add a Label. Type in jump height. Click Add an Input Number or text. Type jump. Click Add a Label. Type movement. Add an input number or text. Movement. Click Add a Label. Type Newton. Click Add an input number or text. Type Newton. Add a label. Hacky. Add an input number or text. Tacky. We're going to check mark the Run Without Screen Refresh box and click OK. So now you have this bar of commands here, this block of commands. Now we're going to go to Variables. We're going to click Make a Variable. Type in Y gravity. Make sure it says for all sprites. Click OK. Going to make another variable. X change. Click OK. One more variable. Tacky V. And click OK. And now we're going to uncheck the boxes for each of the variables we just created. Now we're going to choose the Change My Variable by One block. We're going to drag that under the pink block and connect them. And then we're going to change the My Variable to Y gravity. And we're going to click and drag the light pink oval gravity block to replace the 1. In order to get the gravity oval to fit here, you can see when I drag it from the right, it will highlight. And then if I drop it, then it will go into that slot. So what you'll see as we progress, that there's going to be some more complicated drops that we make, and you'll just need to make sure that that slot is highlighted before you drop it in there. Okay, now we're going to go to the motion section of the code, and we're going to click and drag the Change Y by 10 block under the Change Y gravity and connect it. We're going to go to Variables, click and drag Y gravity to replace the 10. We're going to go to Control click and drag an if-then block underneath the change y by y gravity block. And this is a block that has kind of a spot in the middle as well as another bar on the bottom. And you'll see that we'll add things in the middle of that. We'll go to Sensing, and we will click and drag a touching mouse pointer question mark and insert it into the empty box between the if and the then. So this kind of hexagonal box here. And we're going to go to Control and click and drag a repeat until block to the middle of the if then block. So we're going to find our repeat until, put that in the middle of the if then block. Going to go to Operators, and click and drag a not block into the empty box next to repeat until. We're going to go to Sensing, drag a touching mouse pointer question mark block next to the not block. Go to Motion, drag a change y by 10, place it in the middle. I went to the wrong one. Change y by 10, and we're going to put that in the middle. Go to Operators. I'm going to click and drag a ABS of a division and a multiplication block. Going to place the ABS of block into the division block's left empty box. So this is where you'll see that you just want to drag it into an area where that slot is highlighted, then you can drop it in. Another thing that we're going to be careful of and keep in mind is where we are using the cursor when we're dragging some of our blocks. If you notice, there is kind of an outline around the interior block here, and so if I was to drag that with the cursor, it's going to separate those two, whereas if I drag with the cursor on this larger piece, then it'll take everything with it. So just be careful of that. If you do accidentally take something in a place where you don't want it, you can use Control-Z on your keyboard to undo any mistakes you might have made. So the next step is placing the division block into the multiplication block's left empty box. So we're going to take this whole thing, do the same thing where we highlight and drop it on the left empty box. Type -1 into the empty block to the right of the multiplication symbol. And then go to Variables and drag Y gravity into both of the empty boxes here. So there's 1, there's 2. And take the entire thing to replace the 10 in the change Y by 10 block. So get it till it's highlighted, and then drop that whole block into there. Okay, so now that we've gotten through the first section of commands, we're going to speed up the video and get through it a little bit quicker. But if you have any questions, refer to your step-by-step guide and also the finished diagram. If anything looks out of place, you can drag it around and put it where it should be. Okay, so now that we have the physics engine completed, the code for the physics engine for a robot, we can go on to level creation. So in this case, we're going to add another sprite, but instead of clicking on choose a sprite, we're going to go to paint. It's going to bring up this sprite creation menu here. And so we're going to draw a straight line as close as we can to the bottom of the screen here. Or not as close as we can, but so we can still kind of see it. You can see in the preview screen kind of how it's going to look. Looks okay. And so then we're going to change this from Sprite 1 to World 1. And then we can go back to our physics engine, select the yes bot again so you can see there's no code attached to World 1 but on our yes bot. And then wherever it says mouse pointer, like here touching mouse pointer, we're going to change that to say World 1. So there's those two, there's one here, and then there's two down here at the bottom. Okay, so now that we have that changed to World 1, we can press this green flag at the top of the screen here. Okay, so I just adjusted my screen a little bit so you could see the flag here. So we're gonna press the green flag to start the code running. And you can see my robot character is on the world. And then you can use the right and left arrow keys to move your robot back and forth, and then you can press the space bar to make your robot jump. If you feel like you've mastered the technique so far, try and power up your character with the instructions in the packet. You now have the basics of a platformer game at your fingertips. Edit and adjust the World 1 image to create valleys and platforms, and various things for your character to overcome and use. Modify the power-up code as a basis to create a number of other effects besides size. Learn how to use the variables, both orange and pink, to affect things like movement and jump height. As you get more familiar with what you can do with Scratch and other coding languages, take even more leaps to create new worlds, characters,